Hi, I'm Mike Clapperals, and I'm the co-founder of Creative Definitions. We're a supplier and a producer of sustainable textiles made out of locally grown fibers, and we're here basically to tell our story. Okay, let me tell you something about Creative Definitions. It was started 2008 by myself and my wife with our primary purpose of reselling Negros-made handicrafts here in Metro Manila. But in 2017, we made a major shift. We became more of a social enterprise when we partnered with several weaving communities in the Negros Island. So if you ask what Creative Definitions is right now, we are an enviro-social enterprise developing and producing sustainable textiles made out of fibers that are locally grown in partnership with artisan groups and other collaborators. So our long-term goal really is to market our products not only locally but also in the international markets. Our major shift to being a social enterprise involved two factors. First and foremost, we had a bit of exposure in the weaving industry when we were involved with an NGO, the Habi Philippine Textile Council. So that working with Habi gave us some idea and also showed us some opportunities, and especially to revive the weaving communities around the country. And at the same time, we were also part of the Association of Negros Producers, and we were looking at more at projects that would involve more impact in the countryside. So me being from Negros, as everyone knows, Negros was a hot seat of communist insurgency way back in the 80s and the 90s. So, the only solution I feel is that we have to develop the countryside to give more jobs to the people up there. So with that, hopefully that we could provide certain contributions in the economy. Becoming a social enterprise wasn't easy, but of course we had to take certain steps that would lead us towards that sort of arrangement. First and foremost was the partnership. We needed to establish some sort of a rapport with the different weaving communities in Negros. And we just, in 2017, we started with one partnership. There was a weaving community in Kabangkalan in Negros Occidental, and it involved 9 weavers. Right now, of course, there are already 14. They grew to 14. But it started with that group. Then the second group was another weaving community also nearby in Kabangkalan City that involved 3 women. And in 2018, we had the third collaboration, which we set up with a master weaver from Valladolid in Negros Occidental. Her name is Miss Helen Managwit, and she's a treasure, and we really wanted to support her and let her community grow. Our fourth engagement were the Bakong weavers in Negros Oriental. They specialize more on weaving sinamay, but right now we're doing some product development in combining abaca and cotton. So if you look at the fabric behind me, actually it's one of their works, combining cotton and abaca. So it started with that. First, we established rapport and a relationship with the different weaving communities. Then, of course, the second factor was we were also thinking, that would create more impact to these communities is how to improve their source of income. And that's why we took fair trade rather seriously so of course, I'll give you an example. When we did our pricing strategy on the fabrics, on handwoven fabrics, we also involved the communities in the decision making. So it's not only that we base it on what we know or what the market dictated, we also involve them in the process of coming up with the price structure. So we made a matrix from the simple weaves to the more sophisticated weaves, from the width, the varying widths that were involved. So that was one part, and we made an agreement. Before we finalized any orders, we made sure that they agreed, and if we need and if we needed to do certain adjustments on the pricing structure, there was always an open communication. So let's say if one weaver said, "I think this a bit more, this requires more skill and time," so then we adjusted the price. At the same time, we also told them that there's also a price cap. I mean, we can't just allow them to freely say how much. Now we have to tell them, I don't think we feel it's not going to sell if it reaches this price. So there was an open communication always, and gladly we did that because that really avoided a lot of confusion and delays in any job order. And the third, of course, was innovation. One of our core principles that we also adopted was the using innovation, because most of these weaving communities were using polyester at first, so we actually converted them to using cotton, 100% cotton. And it took some adjustment there because it's more difficult to weave cotton because they're, of course, more fragile than polyester. No? So, but it worked because we told them if you're just going to weave with polyester, the market basically will shy away from that. And true enough, when we converted to cotton, the selling became better. I mean, there were more attentive, and customers were more interested using natural-based fibers and fabrics. I think to give everyone an idea why we're going in this direction towards sustainability, let me start first with the opportunities. No, I mean, first and foremost, my wife and I, we actually attended a trade fair in Hong Kong. I think it was called the Asia Pacific Leather Fair, and there was a section there on materials. So we joined that. We brought in some of our hand-woven materials, and actually, that basically turned on something inside us. We saw the opportunities in terms of environmentally friendly materials and also the practices. So that gave us actually the impetus, the idea, this is an interesting roadmap to pursue because we feel that this is the future of the textiles. Of course, there's always the mass production, fast fashion type of thing, but this is we saw another opportunity here, and true enough, we also discovered that demand for sustainable materials is ever growing, especially in Europe and in the US. So then the other opportunity came up also when we were introduced to the UST Philippine Textile Research Institute, and we discovered that through our talks with them, we established and we found out that they did already some studies on yarn production, making use of our local fibers. So I said, wow, this is it. I mean, this is the answer of what. So we basically we found out and we studied what was happening in the market, and basically now we discovered that also we have the means to supply the market. So that became our, in a way, our rallying cry, and we started from that point. And since then, we've been researching more on what materials to look into, and so here we are. That's why we're talking now. Now, in terms of the challenges, well, in everything that's new, there will always be challenges, and in fact, many people didn't even believe what we were doing. And in fact, there was a brand telling us indirectly that we're just small time. Okay, so of course, ego got hurt. But again, from that we learned that we just have to persevere and be relentless. And if we believe that there's something that can be made possible, we have to do it. So that thing of being called small time was, in a way, a trigger point. It became a trigger point for us and for me and my wife. Then, of course, there were some people also in government who also didn't take us seriously at first, but now they do. And again, it's more like putting things together. Maybe during the time when we were starting, they couldn't see the whole picture. But now that I'm explaining what we want to pursue, it gets more clear. and that's why. But right now, and the new challenge is coming in because we. I'll be honest with you. We've received several inquiries already about our sustainable textiles, especially in the pineapple cotton blend. But the number one barrier that we see right now is the certification. That's why we're here to work with PTRI also and BTI on how do we address that, also with Phil Export. So it's more on how to come up with how to certify our fabrics being sustainable, because there are many angles in sustainability. It's not only whether it's a green product, um, it's not only environmental friendly, can contribute to the green movement, but also the social compliance. So we have to have certification, for example, that our workers are fairly compensated, whether we don't use child labor, or whether we also embrace gender equality. So that there are a lot of issues. So we need to get certification of that. And unfortunately, it costs a lot. But again, I'm here to talk to the government agencies to help support us. So that's one. Then, and lastly is, I'd say another challenge would be how to make use of other fibers, in the country. Because here I'm just talking about cotton, pineapple, abaca, and even banana, no? But we have actually 30 other fibers that we can convert into something wearable. So that's where the challenge is, and I think that's where the R&D should be emphasized. So basically, that's it. And I want to bring again the Philippines into the spotlight, because a lot of our natural fibers, for example, abaca, is mainly exported, and most of the value-added processes are being made abroad. And that's for me that's actually the sad reality that we're facing right now. An example would be Banana Tex. It's a Swiss-based company using our abaca for their bags. So they're calling it Banana Tex because actually banana and abaca are cousins. So, but they're using Banana Tex, but actually they're using abaca. And of course, there's another brand, the Piña Tex. They're using our pineapple fibers as substrate for their supposedly vegan leather. But for me, I feel sad about that, because the word piña in itself is Filipino. It's ours. Of course, we derive it from the Spanish word pineapple. But unfortunately, there are some, of course, who took advantage of our resources. But of course, I can't blame them. It's also part of their long-term plan for sustainability. But my point is that we had so many opportunities here that we missed out. But I'm hopefully with our company, together with a lot of the government agencies I'm collaborating with, I would like to change the playing field and do more of the value-added processes here in the Philippines, because it's not only going to benefit the farmers, it will also benefit some of our artisans like the weavers, but most of all, it will also benefit the other stakeholders in the textile industry. And it's a chance for us again to become self-sufficient, so we don't rely much on imported yarns or other materials. It's a chance for us really to make use of our naturally grown treasures, and for the benefit of the Filipinos, of course. Among the projects that we're looking at right now is the Lakat sustainable sneakers. Lakat is an Ilonggo word for to go or to walk. So that's why I chose that brand, is because I'm, of course, from that region and I speak Ilonggo. And well, what makes it unique? It's 100% made here in the Philippines by Filipinos. And more important is that all the materials, I'd say 99%, are all sourced locally. The fibers are grown locally. For example, the uppers, where it's made out of blended pineapple cotton, hand woven by our partner communities in Negros Occidental. The shoelaces are also made out of the pineapple cotton blend, and we have a special machine that braids that. And another exciting part here actually is the insoles, which will be made out of 100% pineapple non-woven fabric. And the rubber outsoles, the one in the bottom, is actually rubber that has been farmed in Mindanao, and we'll be mixing actually some uh, pineapple fibers that were considered waste during the spinning process. So it's quite an interesting project because, well, it involved a lot of collaboration. Of course, in the technology side, the Philippine Textile Research Institute help us in of course in perfecting the fabrics, which by the way includes the SmartTex water repellents additive, also developed by PTRI. And of course, I have to thank also DTI, SciTem, and FAME for, well, who helped us also in terms of the product design, and they also assisted me in the IPO part. So the product is registered, and of course, I cannot also deny that the DA also helped me out in the sourcing of the fibers, specifically the Philippine Fiber Industry Development Authority, who have direct contacts with all the farmer groups. So if you look at it, it's really it involved a lot of collaboration, and I think that's the key in the future for any product development. And well, if you ask me when I'm going to launch it, hopefully by December, in time for Christmas, if things go as planned. And so it's going to be exciting. I mean, and I really want to share this because it's inspiring. Because a lot of people thought that we couldn't do it, and eventually it came about. So it was just a matter of putting things together and talking to the right people. I think the timing was just right. With regards to the product development process, well, there are several stages. Of course, number one, we had to do a lot of product research. Not to mention, of course, that ever since my wife and we've always dreamed of coming up with our own footwear that's, of course, made locally. So it's important to understand the market, and we found out there are a lot of brands, in fact, abroad that claim that they're sustainable in terms of the materials. But when I find out a lot of them are also not 100%. But here I can claim that it's 100% really sourced locally, with regards especially to the fibers. So knowing the market, I'd say would be one of them. And I think what is also important in the product development is that we have to know our capabilities. So in terms of funding and investing, we had to put a lot of time and training, especially our people to produce those sustainable yarns and textiles. So then, of course, the next step would be to understand the production process. And of course, when you go in a much bigger view, you have to have mastery really on the value chain. So it's not only the part where you assemble the shoe, but also the supply of the different materials that have to come on time. So I'd say that was important. So we basically matched the potential of the shoe with the market, at the same time also getting to establish our production capability to basically make it happen. I think creative definitions will be at the forefront of introducing other technologies. So we're looking at other fibers that we can incorporate with our products. And it's not, as I mentioned earlier, it's not only going to be footwear, but we'll be tapping all sectors, whether it's in the fashion side, or even in the upholstery, or even in the gifts and housewares. So there's so many opportunities that we can tap. But the whole idea is really get to know our capabilities and matching the capabilities with the market potential. So, and of course, incorporating new technologies, not only new fibers that we plan to tap, but also other textile technologies. A good example would be nanotechnology, which we want to look into, on how to improve to keep the let's say the characteristics of a textile, for example. So we're looking at that. Then of course that we want to go global. We have a product here. I feel that can be accepted globally. Just with the assistance of everyone, whether government agencies or even some private individuals, we're looking at really pushing it in the global market. And I know it's a challenge right now with the pandemic, but sometimes you just have to keep on dreaming, persevere, and be relentless on idea. So I think that will be the future of creative definitions. It will eventually it will evolve. Hopefully, I hope it gets even bigger, employ more people, and to tap more communities. Because in the end, it's not only profits we're talking about here, but the potential of inspiring the young. That the next generation need to be exposed also of the potentials, but also improving the livelihood on the countryside. Because for me, we need to definitely put back something there. Because we owe it to them. We owe it to the people that we need to provide jobs and other opportunities. For those who want to get into the sustainability journey, I think what is important is that you have to know your capability. You have to be clear with your vision, what you want to do. And I mentioned earlier also you have to have complete mastery of your supply chain and know your costs very well, because there are a lot of hidden costs sometimes that would pop out that you have to anticipate them. But I think more important is an entrepreneur or a business person involved in this field has to be, in a way, be ready to be transparent. When I talk about transparency here, it's not only the sourcing of the materials but also our work ethic. There are many sides on that aspect. There are a lot of elements involved, but what is important is that you have to be, I think, true to yourself and also to your customers. So the claims alone, we have to be transparent on not only our vision but also our products. I mean, what we say it should be, whatever the product is made of, it should be that way. No hidden agendas. And if they're hidden, I think you have to at least mention that, because again, people right now, I notice, are looking into what's behind the business. Of course, paying, also compensating our workers on hand is also another thing that we need to be ready with. People are asking, inquiries from abroad are asking us, how do we treat our workers? What's our process of compensating our let's say, our subcontractors? It's a full range of things, really, and we have to be ready with it. And as I said, certifications will be needed in the future as more buyers abroad are looking into to the different SMEs here in the Philippines. So we have to be ready, and we just have to face it. And that's basically it. I think the whole idea here is that if you have an idea, don't give up. We have to persevere and relentless, and expect people really to look down at you at first. That was our experience. But it's always a challenge to prove them wrong. And I like the idea of proving people wrong, especially if you feel that we can make a difference out there. We can create more impacts. Not only the market but also the countryside. So there you go. I think that tells about. I just told you basically our story and how we plan to do things, and hoping for everyone's support on our endeavor. And, I just want to thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to tell our story and our vision